Matt O'Connor.
That was excellent, Mike.
Yes.
He said a lot of things that make me think about issues in California where I've been focused for the last couple of years. You know, there's 3,600 people in the United States on death row. 711 of them are in California. 11 of them are women. Since 2006, there's been a moratorium on the death penalty because a federal judge in San Jose, and by the way, the lawyers for the defendant was Kenneth Starr, who prosecuted Bill Clinton. Kenneth Starr took this case of this, you talk about a heinous murderer. This guy was a heinous murderer, convicted without any remorse, but Starr took the case because he said it was a violation of this defendant's Eighth Amendment right to, not to be punished a cruel and unusual way. And Judge Fogel at the time, he agreed and put California through all these steps to try to figure out how to do executions in a humane way. I mean, it was oxymoronic, but that's what the challenge was. They spent $800,000 redoing the death chamber from the old gas chamber. They spent $800,000 to make that more presentable. And their big problem was they couldn't get anybody in the medical profession though to come in and actually do it. And without medical professional personnel in the lethal injection procedure, some very bad things have happened and can happen. So the judge, he told them to get an anesthesiologist or at least an RN to do it, and they couldn't get it. So the moratorium stayed in place. Judge Fogel's taken a new job in Washington, D.C., and there's either a Clinton or Obama appointee taking his place. I just don't remember right at this minute. But it looks to me like sometime early in 2012, next year, something will be done where it's clear, the path is cleared for California to reinstate the death penalty. If it's going to change there, I think it's going to be because of the economics of it. With 700 people on death row, California is spending $1 billion a year incarcerating these people. It costs like $80,000 to put a person in the general population. $80,000 per person more to put a person in the general population, like Mike's talking about, life without parole, and you're in prison. Operating death rows is extremely expensive. Plus of all the appeals only death row inmates are entitled to. So the state takes on this humongous burden in perpetuity. I mean, your average death row case takes 25 years. And the person usually gets out either because he dies, he gets off death row because he dies in prison, or very seldom is exonerated. But, all right, having said that, I'm going to do a quick update on Mumia Abu Jamal's case, just because I know a lot of people are interested in it, and this is one case that confuses a lot of people. In 2001, a federal judge in the 3rd District, that's in Philadelphia, said that the judge's jury instructions to Mumia's jury were improper. He didn't explain, he failed to explain the importance of the mitigating circumstances. So he ordered the Philadelphia DA's office to either give Mumia a new sentencing hearing, or sentence Mumia to life without parole. That was the choice. Well, they are extremely vindictive in Philadelphia because Mumia was convicted of murdering a police officer. So the DA went to the judge and said, "Judge, we don't want him off death row. We want to appeal this." They sure as hell weren't going to give him a new sentencing hearing. This would have been tantamount to a whole new trial for Mumia, and they couldn't have gotten these witnesses who perjured themselves the first time to do it again. Their key witness, they said, was dead. So anyway, they kept Mumia on death row, and they kept appealing it. They finally went to the Supreme Court. They went back to the Third. The Third said, no, we uphold Judge Young, this federal judge's decision. They finally appealed it this year to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court threw it back and said, no, we uphold the Third Circuit's standing. So Mumia now, right back where he was in 2001, where the DA has a choice of giving him life without parole, put him in the general prison population where his privileges would greatly increase and his life would improve dramatically, or to give him a new penalty phase hearing. Wouldn't just not any question about his innocence, just a penalty phase. Should he get death again? So I don't see that happening, and that was the one victory I could point to from me of all the years I've followed this case, is for him not to have the death sentence reimposed. To the Kevin Cooper case, this is a California case, 1985. Wynn asked Kevin to make a statement. We would try to get him on video, audio, but they don't allow that at San Quentin. He'd have to do it on a call out, and we didn't have enough lead time. So he wrote a statement, and I'm going to read it at the end of this. But first, I just want to describe his case a tiny bit, because Aidwyc endorsed this case in 2004 as Kevin Cooper approached execution. He got within 4 hours of being executed on February the 9th, 2004. I mean, he had Jesse Jackson in his cell. He had his minister. It looked bad. At the very last minute, very unusual. I mean, extraordinary. You won't see it again. An en banc, that means the whole Ninth Circuit out there, the whole Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. A judge went down and got all these signatures to have the stay, and ordered a new habeas corpus hearing for Cooper. It was incredible. So that came out the day before his execution. Of course, California, they've got you, they want to kill you. They appealed it to the United States Supreme Court. So this whole day started ticking off, and would the court lift the stay, or would the stay in place? Well, it took all the way down to those 4 hours before it was known that the Supreme Court was not going to act. The stay would stay in place. So Kevin came that close. He was, in 1983, incarcerated in Chino, a prison, a large state prison in San Bernardino County. And Kevin, as he had several other times in his life, he escaped. There was a low security penitentiary. He was in the minimum security. He'd been wrongly classified. And just one stupid mistake after another, these people made it at Chino. And he was put in minimum security, and the very next day, he left. You could just walk out the front gate. And he walks, and he ends up in horse country, Arabian horse country in Chino Hills, which is a whole other world in Chino. And these are these big horse farms, Arabian horse farms, and he finds this, he's not sure, but it looks like nobody's in this house, and he finds a vacant house. It's 125 yards below, 125 feet below this family's hilltop house in Chino Hills. So he hangs out there. He figures if he could stay there for a couple of days, then they quit looking for him in that area, assume he's going somewhere else. So he hangs out there till Saturday night about 8:30, and then makes his way back down the way he came in, and hitches 2 rides to Mexico. So that's at 8:30. Around midnight that night, this family in this hilltop ranch house, the mother, the father, their 10-year-old daughter, 11-year-old house guest, and their son, who's 8 years old, are viciously attacked with an axe, a hatchet, 1 or 2 knives, and an ice pick. And they are all murdered except for the little 8-year-old. And his throat is cut from stem to stem, and he's left for dead. His lungs are punctured. He very much looked like he was dead. But he survives. The little girl, the 11-year-old, the 10-year-old, she actually got out of the house during the deal. When they sent her body bag in to be tested, there were these little knife things that, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but it established that she'd actually gotten outside, which really annihilates the idea that one person could have controlled these 2 41-year-old chiropractors, the adults, who both had loaded weapons right next to their beds. On both sides of the bed, the father had a shotgun, and the mother had a pistol, and she was very good at using. So, the theory of the case that one person would you'd have to picture this like a Rambo movie. Guy coming in with a knife in his, where would all these weapons be? He's got a hatchet. He's got maybe the medical examiner said he had 2 knives originally, but then he finally got it down to 1. And then an ice pick. So he's got all these weapons, and why would or could one person use all these on? So their case really was pathetic in terms of its probability. So if you have a pathetic case, you have some resources. You can plant evidence, or you can destroy evidence that shows this person's innocence. So these murders were committed by 3 white guys. I can tell you all their names, I'm pretty damn sure. But one of the white guys, his girlfriend came down called up the police a few days after the murders and said, I've got these bloody coveralls that my boyfriend left in the closet. They're full of horse hair and their blood's caked on them. And cops come down and get them. She says, I don't want to, this guy's like a deputy. He says, I want to talk to homicide. I've got a lot of other stuff I'd like to tell homicide. Well, homicide never comes to see her. She would have told homicide that her boyfriend's hatchet was missing now, that the T-shirt that he wore, that he had on that day, is no longer there. And these are the 2 biggest things. And they find the tan T-shirt that this guy had on, and the hatchet is the primary murder weapon. But they never go see her. They find a blue T-shirt. A woman, a citizen, finds a blue T-shirt outside of a bar right below Ryan's house. People's family's name was Ryan. They find this blue T-shirt with blood on it one day, and then the next day they find the tan T-shirt. Both of them have blood on it. The cops. That's too many T-shirts for the cops because they're focused in on Kevin Cooper now. So only 1 T-shirt ever gets admitted into evidence. The blue one is never heard of until the 2005 when we're doing their evidentiary hearings. It comes out in a police log that there was a citizen calling in and picking in, and they have the deputy's name who picked it up, and it's all there on the dispatch tapes, dispatch logs. So they got rid of that, and they got rid of the coveralls. As Kevin was being at his preliminary hearing, they destroyed the coveralls. They threw them in a Dempsey dumpster and got rid of them. Now this would have been Kevin would have never been on trial if these coveralls had been preserved. He'd been out, but they destroyed those. And then to get Kevin, they planted stuff like on the tan T-shirt, which they said was only had the blood of Doug Ryan, the father, on it. When they tested it to show Kevin's innocence in 2004, 2003, they now had Kevin's blood on it. So they and then 5 years later, this vial of Kevin's blood is sent off to a private lab in Pennsylvania, and the lab person there, she detects that there's at least 2 different DNAs in this vial, not just Kevin's. It's like one of these deals. If you're a kid, you drink your father's whiskey, and then you have to make it look like it wasn't used. They put somebody else's blood in Kevin's vial, so there's at least 2. So that kind of thing. That's what they did to Kevin. Kevin is out of appeals. He's got Aidwyc and this wonderful law firm in San Francisco, Aidwyc Sutcliffe, who are working fantastic for him, all pro bono. But he's been in there over half his life now for something he had nothing to do with other than being an escapee. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that's the story I tell about. That's the story I tell about that and what I wrote. So thanks very much for your interest.